Thank you. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to call to order the regularly scheduled September 8th meeting of the Buellton City Council. The time being 6 p.m. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready? Begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all. Will you please call the roll?
Councilmember Connolly.
Here.
Councilmember Elovitz.
Here.
Councilmember Sierra. Vice Mayor Bauman.
Here.
And Mayor Andrusik.
Here. And Councilmember Sierra has an excused absence. Thank you. Reordering of the agenda. Do we have any requests? I have not received any.
No, sir.
All right. At this time, we will have public comments. This is a time for the council to hear comments from the public on items that are not on the agenda. I want to make clear that we ask you to contain your topics to 3 minutes each, and the no action will be taken at this evening, but the council will have everything recorded and take it under advisement. With that, I have the first speaker we have is Allie Bruce. If you would come to the microphone, we'll just ask you to give your address, your name and address, and then we'll...
My business is located on 92 2nd.
Just your house?
Oh, I live in Solvang.
That's okay.
631 Hydefield Way, Solvang, California.
Thank you.
I came here about Zaka School being closed and asking to the city to get somehow help for us for the not happen. It's a beautiful school that have take care of special need kids and also teaching all the kids to learn with difference and have compassion. The reason they saying is because of budgets. We asking to see what's the problem with the budget, because a city that school that have over 20 years in the district, they have a waiting list for kids to come in. That helps not just Buellton, but Solvang, Santa Inês, kids from Lone Pocket, even from Los Alamos going to that school. Why it's no budget? Why we're not creating a budget for that? And we asking for all your help from the city, since it's located in the city here, as the same as we asking for the other local cities to help us. That is as a community. It's not just a school that the county just want to shut down. They shutting down a lot of hope for a lot of moms from this community with special need kids. And even though my kid is not one of the, I still been very blessed to letting my kid be able to deal with difference and learn from them more than teaching. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Allie. Laverne Fritz?
Lauren.
Lauren Fritz? Sorry, Lauren.
Okay. So name and address?
Just, yes,
Okay.
Thank you.
Lauren Fritz, 404 Thumbelina. I'm here because the Santa Barbara County Education Office has decided to no longer fund Zaka Preschool, and unless they change their minds or a new operator is found, this will be its last year in operation. I know there are lots of others here tonight because of the same issue, and there are many, many people that very much wanted to be here but couldn't because of back to school night. I know the teachers at Oak Valley are concerned about this as well. Zaka has successfully been preparing our children for elementary school and giving them an amazing head start for over 20 years. It is the only preschool in Buellton, as well as the only public preschool in the Valley. It is also one of the only, if not the only, preschool that in the Valley that is not faith-based and at a church. It has a dedicated and well-loved staff, is accredited by the National Association for Education of Young Children, is a demonstration site for the Outdoor Classroom Project, participates in Preschool Healthy Foods Initiative, the staff makes the food for the kids, is a green care provider, and very importantly, it serves the Santa Ynez Valley special needs preschoolers. Preschoolers that even if Zaka closes, SBCO will remain the provider for, yet admittedly they do not have a plan for. Zaka is also the only preschool in the Valley that has a program for 2-year-olds and does not require potty training for attendance, making it a huge asset to our local working parents. Buellton and the Valley are growing. Young families move here because it has become known as a wonderful community to raise kids. If anything, we need more early education available, not less. There are other preschools in the Valley, but many are not convenient for parents in Buellton who work north or south of here. They may need to start taking their kids out of the city with them, or perhaps for some, skip preschool altogether. This takes money and resources out of our community. This is about losing a community asset and an option and being overlooked by the education office. I am hard-pressed to believe that if this amazing community-loved school that is praised by the county for its reputation and accolades was in the city of Santa Barbara, Goleta, or perhaps Santa Maria, it would be pushed aside under the excuse of funding models and budgets, especially when we, the parents, pay a significant amount of tuition. We may be off the freeway in a small town, but we are still a part of this county, and we deserve to be able to give our children the same head start the families in the other cities in the county do. Instead, they are treating us as if we are out of sight, out of mind, until something needs to be cut, and then we are disposable. The education office is potentially taking away an amazing asset from a community that desperately needs it. I will close by saying we need your assistance. We need your ideas. We need a solution that will preserve Zaca as the wonderful school it is and not turn it into something else. We need your help advocating for us and our children. A well-performing school should not be cut no matter what, even a preschool. Buellton, Santa Ynez Valley, and Santa Barbara County need this preschool. It is a benefit to the community as a whole to have well-prepared and nurtured children, and it will be a loss to the community if they are swept under the budget rug.
Thank you, Lauren.
So we, just within the last 24 hours, got signatures of people in support of the school. They came to it. We didn't even walk around.
If you'd like to submit it, we'll receive it.
Up to 72, and I'm sure we could get more.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm not sure, is it Marin Carey?
Yeah.
Okay, Marin, please.
My name is Marin Carey. I live on 5490 Campbell Road. So after that lovely speech, I agree with everything that she has said. This is a community asset, and for all of us with young children, it is a necessity. This cannot be just swept under the rug, as she has said. Everybody needs to be upset that this is closing, and we definitely need your help to wake Santa Barbara up that this is not an okay thing for them to just close it. We all pay tuition. It is not free to us. This is not we're not low-income families that are going there. We are paying for the tuition. So why is it that all of a sudden after 20 years, they're going to take away these beautiful teachers that are taking care of our children? It's just not okay. So we beg you, basically, to do something as a community to help us. Thank you.
Thank you, Marin. Leanne Moore Watson.
Hi, my name is Leanna Moore Watson. My address is 340 Alder Lane, and the Santa Barbara County Office of Education is making this decision without taking into account how important it is for this community. And I know that you can't move on this topic tonight. It's not an agenda item, but I implore you to do whatever you can to support this, because it directly affects everybody who lives in Buellton as well as throughout the valley. I have an 18-year-old son named Alec and a 13-year-old McLean, who both attended Zaca a long time ago, and are still absolutely affected by their experiences there. My son has special needs and got a tremendous amount of support and intervention at the school. My daughter does not have special needs, but was able to be blessed to be pulled into groups, to be able to see children with varying abilities and struggles and challenges and abilities, and that has changed her. The preschools have a notoriously high turnover rate. The Zaca preschool is commendable in that most of the employees have been there for decades. Shelley Grant has been the executive or director for over 20 years, and she has received national accolades. At the time when my son was there, she was only the second preschool in the county to receive the national very, very highest accreditation from the nation on preschools. And now there's a few more, but she has created and paved the way for tremendous education for our community. I implore you to do whatever you can to put pressure on Santa Barbara County Office of Education to let them know the value that you as a city council see in having this tremendous preschool. To say this is an asset to our community is an understatement, and I know that this will affect so many of your constituents. Thank you.
Thank you. Joanna Crookston?
Yeah, hi.
Hello, Joanna.
My name's Joanna Crookston, and I'm at 455 Scandia Drive. Right now I have a daughter who is in her second year at Zaca, and I have a daughter who will be 2 in November, and I was really hoping that she would be attending Zaca next spring. I think the best thing I can do right now is, given what has already been said, is just talk a little bit more about what the preschool does on a daily basis. So it's an inclusion program, which means that the children that have disabilities there are part of the curriculum with kids that don't have disabilities, and that's really advantageous to both and all kids because it teaches socializing, what is the norm, and it also gives children who have disabilities a really a comfortable way to practice socializing with their peers, and then for them to all grow up together. Also, it's part of the Healthy Foods Initiative, I believe it's called, and so Shelley Grant, who is the director, wears a number of hats. She is the director, she's my daughter's teacher, and she's also cooking in the kitchen, which is, I think the food is mostly organic, it's very healthy, and my daughter comes back with trying all new sorts of things. Also, it's outdoor based, so that means that the reading and the mathematics, those types of things that are being taught, are not just taking place in the classroom inside, but also outside. And it's a center that is observed, so that's really important. Also, it's part of our community. Like others have said, it's been in the community for quite a long time, and I think that history in and of itself is something to value and take seriously. Currently, there are 55 children that are enrolled. They're licensed for 43 children, but because different kids, there's a different number of kids that come every day. Everyone has different schedules. They currently have, without advertising, a wait list for not only 2017 but 2018. And my concern, not only because I love this school, but where are these kids going to go? Do these other preschools have space? I don't know. Many people do travel out of town for work, but, for those of us who are in town, where is my child going to go? So I think I've touched on everything that I wanted to, other than just that the teachers are fabulous. I have a background working with children that have disabilities, and I just can't tell you what a gem this program is. And I can't even believe that Santa Barbara County would get rid of something like this or even consider it. So thanks for your time.
Thank you, Joanna. Rachel Cardoza.
Rachel Cardoza at 310 Riverview Drive. I don't know what else to say because I feel that it's been well articulated, but I'm one of the people that commutes out of town every day. So I looked in town, and the prices are double for a lot of the schools that aren't faith-based. And then the faith-based schools here, which work for a lot of people, are actually a little bit less per month than Zaka for the hours that I would need, but I like the idea of my son and future child being able to be with kids of different disabilities and different abilities, because I feel it teaches empathy, and it really it just enriches education beyond just what you would get at a school, and it sets them up for being able to go to Oak Valley, because that's that same standard of everyone learns together. It's a curriculum that's accredited and has whole guidelines that other preschools are going through. It's not because of the faith that it's taught what it's taught, one preschool versus another. So if you wouldn't mind putting on your agenda next month to talk about different options, maybe advocating for it through the county, or maybe you fine gentlemen have some good ideas of how the school can continue without the county of education. So thank you.
Thank you, Rachel. Next we have Bill Cerrone.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and members of the council. I'm Bill Cerrone, Santa Barbara County Superintendent of Schools, and I also live in Sylvank. I wanted to first apologize to the council and to all of the people here for the misunderstandings that have been created by a letter that we sent out to parents with the intention of resolving the problem, not creating it. Obviously, our communication was off target. I apologize for that. But with just 3 minutes, I just want to give you a broad brush. If there's a room to meet with parents afterwards, I'd be glad to do that and answer all of their questions from A to Z. The intent of the letter was to...
Bill, I think we would accept your time any time you wish. Because
okay,
would
thank
like
you.
to hear.
Okay.
So you take
okay, well, then I'll slow down. And what I wasn't going to explain, but I will briefly, is the issue with funding is that because this is a full inclusion program, which we started as an innovation and has in fact received the state and national accolades, and we share the pride in, the rules have changed, and the rules for not for regional students, and I don't want to get too technical, but for preschool age children, the guidelines have changed that the state will no longer provide funding to serve those children in an environment other than what they describe as their natural environment. All that means in terms of the meeting tonight is that that's created a deficit which we've been bearing, but which has been growing, and we can't continue to do on infinitum. So the point is, we are committed for this year. And unlike very often when there are program issues, we didn't want to wait till the spring. We wanted to communicate with everyone, the homeowners association, and particularly the parents. And obviously, the letter we sent came up short, and for that I apologize. But the intent of the letter was to allow a year to happen of exactly what the parents are talking about, and many communications that we've received of working with the community and finding another operator, if not this coming year, the following year, or into the future, but to take over the program and ensure the sense of quality that currently exists. I'm happy to say that even though we only sent the letter out a week or so ago, or a couple of weeks ago, I'm not sure when, we've already received several inquiries of people who might be interested. And well, they should be. Well, they should be, because everything you've said is accurate. It's we're proud, as the parents are. It's fully accredited. It has a great outdoor school. It has a wonderful head teacher, Shelley Grand, who's exceptional, as was described in every way. It has parental support, as you could see. It has a waiting list. It's fully enrolled, and we know this is important to this in every community. So our concern is the same. I mean, we share the same concern that we want to see. We know the disruption this would cause to Buellton or any community, and we want to work together early on to ensure that there isn't a crisis in the spring, and that you don't hear about it in May and hear, oh, gee, the school's going to close at the end of June, and you have 60 days to do something about it. And to a certain extent, just the sending of the letter, although poorly worded, has in fact generated the interest, and as I said, the initial inquiries. Secondly, honestly, I really welcome and thank the parents for their concern, for speaking up, for writing the letters, for getting the petitions. This is something I always encourage, parent engagement and parent involvement, and it also speaks well to the commitment and the caring about the quality of the school. So, I mean, the bottom line is, and I might add, that to make this happen, to make a transition and maintain the quality or find funding so that we can continue for at least another year, if it takes 2 years to come up with a transition that works for everyone, really takes a dedicated person to make that happen. And we have assigned Florine Bednish as a project manager, and Florine she's semi-retired now. She was the assistant superintendent of special education. She conceived of and set up this program 20 years ago and administered it for several years and is very committed to it. And before I came today, I wanted to check with her to make sure she was on board to accept this assignment as the project manager, and she's very enthusiastic. And when I say the project manager, what I'm talking about is to talk to everyone, and not just talk to people, but to know who the funding sources are, to meet with the potential operators, to go over budgets with them, to do all of the things that need to happen if this is going to work, and also to work with the parents. So hopefully, I'm sorry that it turned into immediately they're going to close the school. First of all, that's why I wanted to meet with you, because there are a lot of little things that mean a lot to you, may not mean a lot to everyone, but this is the only preschool that we run like this. So when you talk about the county running, this is the only preschool that is owned by us, that's full inclusion, and that's why we took it over. But the rules have changed. But we still think, and we agree, that the concept is wonderful, and that Buellton has been a model, and we want to maintain that, and we know you need it as well. I mean, preschool is an issue. I chair the First Five Commission of Santa Barbara County, and that's what that's all about, is the first 5 years, and preschool is a big piece of that. So, again, I mean, I hope that the intent, I wanted to come here tonight because I knew you were meeting, I knew this was an issue, to not only clear the air, but to really say, I apologize for the miscommunication, but the intent going forward and from day one is to really work together to really make this work out and to continue the program. I can't make any guarantees. I want to be clear about that, but I'm very confident. I really am, particularly with Florine at the helm as the project manager.
Thank you, Bill, for the open door comments. Really appreciate that. We still have some more. We have Peggy Brierton, public speaker slip.
Good evening, Mayor Andresick and council members. Peggy Brierton, 225 Terry Sue Lane. I want to thank the council for your comprehensive review of the engineering service contract. That along with the RFP, your independent panel that was also put in place to review. I mean, I think you have a lot of information there that is going to be very helpful in making sure that we get the best service for the best price. Along with that, of course, is the the finance department's updated system that's going to help with the billing issues, which have been a concern. So I think that's a critical component of that. I'm hoping that this process will continue for the other contract services. The next one coming up, of course, is the Visitors Bureau contract. I think this process works. It's been shown to work. I know that Councilmember Elovitz and Bauman have been working with staff to work on some wording and clarifications in the contract, and it will be coming up here shortly. But this is one of the duties of the council, is to make sure that monies, the funds, city funds, are well spent and properly spent. And we see tonight, there's plenty of things that the money can go for, and it's not that any certain contract is more valuable than the other. They all have their roles. And I think RFPs serve the purpose great of finding out, what is out there and what's the best money for our community, what's the best that we can get. So I appreciate it, all your efforts in the engineering contract, and hopefully, we can get the same kind of scrutiny for all contracts that the city does. Thank you.
Thank you, Peggy. We had council comments on the. Did you want to make some comments?
I was thinking if we're ready for council comments, I'll just roll into it and wait till then.
Oh, well, we're coming. Consent. We're going to do our consent calendar first, and then, so we'll wait.
Thank you.
Pick it up. Okay. The next item. I do not have any other speaker slips. I'm sorry. Is there anyone that wished to speak that did not get an opportunity to fill out a speaker slip? Seeing none, we will proceed to our consent calendar. We have 4 items on our consent calendar this evening. Minutes of the August 25th, 2016 regular council meeting, a list of claims to be approved and ratified for payment for this year, annual reports for fiscal year 2015-16 from Visit Santa Ynez Valley, and we'll have a proclamation presentation. Thank you, Alan. Appreciate it. So if I could have perhaps a motion and a second to approve the consent calendar.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes?
I would like to pull item 3, the annual report from Visit Santa Ynez Valley.
Okay.
And bring it back under council items to discuss.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Any objection to that?
Which one was that? Item
3, the Visit Santa Ynez Valley.
I think that it has to be discussed under consent calendar under this item, not council items.
Correct, yeah.
Oh,
So
okay.
we'd be just approving 1 and 2 as part of the consent calendar, then separate discussion on item 3.
Okay.
Doesn't have to come back under council.
Linda, are we okay to not have to approve 4? Or that's why I put 4, but we've got 4. Hasn't been approved.
No, that's fine.
That's okay.
You're just going to present
All
it.
right. 1 and 2. Okay, so we have comment now. Then we have a motion to approve 1 and 2 then.
I'll make a motion to approve items 1 and 2 of the consent calendar.
I'll second it.
Motion and second. Please call the roll.
Vice Mayor Bauman.
Aye.
Councilmember Elovitz.
Aye.
Councilmember Connolly.
Aye.
And Mayor Andrusik.
Aye. Thank you. Now, agenda item. Steve?
Agenda item 3.
Agenda item 3.
Okay.
We're right into it.
The reason I wanted to pull it is that I read through it and I had questions. There seemed to be missing information that I'd like to know because the city hotels put in about $250,000 into it, and the city itself, through the Visitors Bureau, has put $25,000. And I thought it was important to get a little better information, so I contacted Mr. Shelby, who runs Visit Santa Ynez Valley, and I had about 7 different items I asked him about. He couldn't respond because they were getting ready for a presentation today or Monday. But he'd be willing to come back. He'd be willing to appear here and answer the questions. And so I wanted to pull this and have it come back to council once I get the information from him or he shows up with the information. The thing is when, because I know we have a lot of items coming up. And I was thinking the first session in October.
If you remember, we're canceling the first session in October. And
I didn't.
Yes, I sent an email last week, I believe, on that. So,
Well, I mean, this is a report we receive. It's not time sensitive, is that correct?
that is correct.
So if that,
You can continue to the second meeting in October.
Sure.
is that agreeable with?
Yep.
All?
Okay.
Then we will move.
Motion, Steve?
Why don't we do a motion just to make it official?
You may want to make a motion.
Okay. I motion that we move item 3, annual report for fiscal year 2015-16 from Visit San Ynez Valley to our second meeting in October.
Yeah. Do we have a second?
Okay, I'll second it.
Thank you.
John, you're going to have to second something. Okay. All in favor?
I don't. Aye.
Aye.
Aye. No opposed. Thank you. At this time, we would like to present consent item number 4, a proclamation for Monty Larson. And Monty, if you would join me at the microphone, we'll. I'd like to recognize you. Sorry the residents aren't able to hear this, but I do believe that Buellton is a special place because of special people who make this their home. And for that, we would like to honor you with, I'm going to bore you with the reading. This proclamation is honoring Monty Larson, a veteran volunteering in the San Ynez Valley. Whereas in 1955, Monty Larson came to the San Ynez Valley, and whereas in 1965, graduated from San Ynez Valley High School and enlisted in the United States Navy, serving in Vietnam from 1967 to 68. Whereas in 1979, Monty and his wife, Olivia, opened Monty's Auto Body in Buellton, where they joined and participated in various community events and organizations. Whereas in 1985, Monty joined the American Legion, San Ynez Valley Post 160, serving as the post commander from 1990 to 91. And whereas in 1995, Monty served as the exalted ruler of the San Ynez Valley Elks Lodge, and whereas Monty is a life member of the Veterans of Foreign War Post 7139. And whereas Monty continues to actively partner with Valley veterans in the American Legion Honor Guard, showing their never-ending respect for comradeship via their presence at military events, parades, funerals, and organizational events. Whereas during July 23rd to 25th, 2016, Buellton radio man, Monty Larson, did board and man Patrol Craft Fast, PCF, Swift, better known as a Swift boat, in number 816 in Santa Barbara Harbor to share with interested parties the duties and responsibilities he performed for the benefit of our country's freedom. Now, therefore, I, Ed Andresic, Mayor of the City of Buellton, on behalf of the City Council, hereby commend Monty Larson for his service to our country and his continued voluntary participation in and around Buellton, past this 8th day of September 2016. Thank you, Monty. Do you have anything you'd like to say? The microphone's behind you.
I'd like to thank the mayor, the city council, the citizens of Buellton for this honor. I'm very humbled by it, but I'm very proud of Buellton because They are very patriotic with their Avenue of the Flags and how they do recognize the veterans of our country. And I hope that in the future that they will continue to do this. Thank you.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Especially wonderful for being able to recognize the local citizens while they're here. Our next, we'll wait a few moments if we're going to have people going.
Could you open the door, Mark?
Bye, Willie. You're welcome. Thanks for coming. So we'll have council member comments at this time. Council, would it be council items? I think that, okay?
That'd be fine. I was going to bring up item 3, but we've already dealt with that. But I want to come back to the issue of Zaka School. And it was great having Supervisor Cerrone here. However, and I'm sure other council members had some questions about it, particularly when he discussed having a new operator. I'm not sure what that meant. Did it mean not just new management, but new instructors? That's a little concerning because the school is about the people that run it. And if they're talking about getting a whole new group, that's not going to be the same school anymore. So I think it's important that I would like our city manager to look into, I guess, the current situation, which is partially the county and partially the state. See what we can do. See what we can do by working with, I forget her name. Is it Doreen?
Florine.
What is it?
Florine.
Florine. Work with her, see what, I guess, find out where this discussion and these meetings are going to go. And hopefully, between our city, the county, the other cities around here, and hopefully the state, although, it'd be nice, we should lobby the state on this issue, but I think it's imperative that we do everything we can to keep the format of the school as it is now intact, and not, because I'm concerned that they may want to dismantle what's there and put something else in its place and say we still have the school, and that's just not going to cut it. So I guess I don't know if this time if we can ask staff to start some recommendations.
What you can do at this point would be to ask that the item be put on a future agenda.
Okay.
You really can't provide specific direction at this point since it's not on the agenda.
Mm-hmm.
So the only thing you could do, you could ask some limited questions for clarification, which I think you've kind of started down that path, but you can't have a substantive discussion.
Sure.
But you can't give specific direction to the council, to the staff at this point. You can, as a council, take action to direct that the matter be put on a future agenda.
Okay. Well, as long as I can get consent from the other council members, I'd like to see it come back as soon as we can. I know we have a busy schedule, but the sooner the better.
And that can be done just by consensus. There doesn't need to be a motion or anything.
I definitely agree with that. And also, you said you can ask limited questions. I'd like to know what the amount of the shortfall is that's causing all this commotion.
He knows, and he's still out there.
Well,
I think that at that point, that might be better to come back at the next meeting. We'll have you can have a full agendized discussion and report on that topic.
Okay.
And I did talk with Ally about getting the whole process. What is the budget? What do they have? And
what are the rules that change?
Mr. Cerrone did tell us this was a letter trying to stay ahead of a very short window, and so there is enough time. I wrote down Corrine as a name. I'm not sure, but I think it was Corrine Bedmar or Bedman, but we'll be getting all of that information. I'm sure the County Board of Education will be sending us the data on it, but I know staff appreciate everyone's willingness to do it, so we have consensus to have a future agenda item, and it more than likely would be the second one. Okay?
So that would probably be the second meeting in October, is that what you said?
Second meeting is what I think we've decided to move that to. Thank you. Other council comments? If there.
Most of my comments have to do with the issue that we were just talking about, so obviously we can't go into detail, but it would be nice if we were able to talk to Bill Ciarni at some point in time so we can discuss the complexities of it, particularly like with the consortium, which occupies all the special needs children, K1 up through 12th, so there are definitely going to be a lot of questions coming out of that. So.
And I think everyone is attentive to the response time, and the more information we have, the better. With council items, I had two to bring forward, two comments. First one was a request for future enforcement enhancement on Central Avenue. We've had residents of Central Avenue, when we tried to get a specific time, because we've done this before with Wynn, and it was just the time he had, and it seems that we've got a locked-in time. The concentration was Monday through Friday. They're talking 6:30 to 7 a.m. They notice a high amount of speeding, and then again 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. Then Friday and Saturday, it is all day. So that, and so I've been there, and it is a tight street. There are a lot of vehicles, but there are also a lot of children. So it behooves all of us, and I don't think we've had any incidents there, but this is a concern.
And I'll work with Lieutenant O'Grady regarding having our new motor officer go out at those particular times and check that out during the week.
Thank you, Mark. Then the item, the next item I wanted to bring to the attention of everyone, and the folks that are always asking for Buellton's contributions, that our first quarter, January through March 2016, our sales tax had an increase of 7.3%. That's in that 3-month period. So I think that's a very healthy rise compared to the national numbers, and I really commend our businesses, and all the more reason for us to stay attentive to the revenue. Right, Mrs. Keller? I do not have other council item. I think Mark would say, I do not have any written communication. Does anyone?
I think we were going to talk about the agenda for our next meeting. Look at the potential of moving.
Thank you for bringing that up.
I wanted to see where Mark was going to bring that. Yeah, we'll wait till he comes back. That's right. We have. I'll let you describe the tablet for next meeting. That's the possibility to.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. We have a very packed agenda at the next meeting with the water and sewer rate discussion, the engineering contract, and the Visitors Bureau contract. And those were continued by the council to that particular date. So staff would recommend that one of the contract items be deferred to the second meeting in October. And it's up to the council to decide which one they prefer to defer to that time. Just let you know, Councilmember Elovitz and Vice Mayor Bauman were working on the Chamber Visitors Bureau contract, but we haven't come up with the exact wording for the contract at this time. So that would give us, if we deferred that, a little more time to get that squared away and have meetings with everybody.
And then you're recommending it be brought back when?
Second meeting in October.
And it possible, I mean, because now regarding that calendar, the water rates are at the top of the list.
Yeah, that's set, because that's public hearing set for that. We can't do anything with that particular item.
I'm finding, and I would also like to have consensus from the council to move the RFP discussion. I don't want to bring the people back again, but we do have, I was in the process of preparing a matrix for comparison. We have not had any, I mean, it's available to all of us, but each of us has other responsibilities, and I don't think having 5 matrix compilers would be effective. So I would ask that we move that one at least to the second meeting also, and if perhaps.
So both contracts is what you're suggesting.
That's fine with me, but I just didn't want to wind up with 22nd of.
Yeah, and that second meeting in October is filling up quickly. If we're having the discussion of the ZACA preschool on that meeting, and I can't remember. I think we have another item on that meeting as well, but
it would be tough to have all that, including.
But you might have. I mean, I think we were going to have an all-inclusive understanding of how this came about, and perhaps have the people that manage the school. That's a short order for them to propose a program, and for us to understand the funding. I think our concern was who has been paying for this, and what are my initial questions were there deficiencies of some sort that were brought that they were concerned, or so I didn't want to assume that it would just happen very, very quickly, but it sounds like someone made a snap decision, and it's flowed downhill, and I think we're more than interested in bringing it back in the forefront and having a public airing of it for our city and the valley, actually, because it is not just a Buellton situation, it's a valley situation. So I'm thinking that.
So regarding the Visitors Bureau, I think it just depends on if we could. I'd rather not move the date if we have enough time to get to a meeting and a contract where you can get it all settled. So I guess that's the question: is that doable?
I would need the contract done by next Wednesday at noon to make the 22nd.
So that's unlikely.
Okay.
Is
it the task force that is supposed to be meeting?
Well, we were trying to bring together
bring it to a task force meeting, right, and then move forward.
Right. So that's going to be very difficult.
Yeah, it's going to be hard.
All right, then I guess it means I don't have any objection to moving the engineering proposal. I don't think that there's any problem with that.
Moving it to
the second meeting in October. City Council, I would have preferred not to move, but it sounds like we're going to have to. So then it's moving both items.
So we're back in the same, except we won't.
Well, no, we'll have water. That's going to be the big one for next meeting. So it does balance out, I think.
And I mean, those I think probably have the highest priority for the council, notwithstanding an emergency occurring that we need to deal with. But I think that gives some breathing room. It just seems like it's every 4 days for a week.
Yeah, I agree.
So but we accept that, and as long as people are, I mean, this item came up 36 hours ago, so, okay, I think everyone agrees.
Right.
So we'd have the 3 main items on October 22nd.
Yeah, that's
still
another, big.
Why are we defer? I understand you want a matrix, but we've had, how many meetings have we had so far in the engineering contract?
Well, that's the problem. We've never had a real discussion of it. It's been presented that it's available to you. We've asked these people to come here. I do not want to ask them to come again unless there's some specific questions that are unanswered.
It's my understanding we were waiting to just see some financial reporting.
And we're almost complete in getting that reporting in time for the 22nd meeting, so we would have it for the staff report for next week.
So can we leave that on the agenda?
I feel that, we've been pushing the engineering contract back and back and back, and everything is backing up because of it. I was ready to make a decision last time, so I'm still ready to make a decision.
And barring any surprising financial information, I feel the same way.
And we will have that as part of the packet for the engineering.
So, then I would ask council to remain with the schedule as it is and keep the engineering contract on the 22nd.
And move the Visitors Bureau contract to the second meeting in October.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm okay with that. Then the ZACA discussion would be...
Second meeting in October as well.
The second meeting in October, okay, because that's going to be a big one.
And I'll be probably amazed if you can gather state, county, and local bodies all together by then.
I'll be talking to Mr. Cerrone, and starting from there.
Cerrone is on board.
There might be a lot of answers by then anyway. Obviously, there's some breakout discussion groups on this, so there'll be more answers by then.
Right.
Okay, so we have consensus then.
Yes, sir.
All right.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Okay. Committee reports. Has anyone got a committee report?
Did not have a committee.
We have not had a committee meeting since our last meeting. Okay. With that, we move to business items. Mr. Budzinski, do you want to? I'm sorry.
I will just introduce the item that we have two representatives from the County Public Works, Mark Schleich, I got it, and Leslie Wells, and they will here make a presentation on the conversion technology process that's been in the works for several years. And I'll turn over to Mark.
All right. Thank you very much. Good evening, Mayor Andrus Drazak and okay. And council members. I'm with the Santa Barbara County Public Works Department, and as you heard, Leslie Wells is with me as well. We're going to be sharing the presentation tonight. As Mark indicated, this project's been going on for quite a while, and I would encourage you to ask questions and interrupt as you feel appropriate. I'd also like to thank Mark for his participation throughout, based on his availability, which he has a very busy job with the city of Buellton.
Underneath.
This one, right? Oh, there we go. As a matter of background, the city of Buellton and the county have a long-term relationship. We have been providing you landfill operations and management for quite a long time. It started with the Fox and Canyon landfill, which was closed recently, and now is the San Ynez Valley Recycling and Transfer Station. Your hauler actually delivers waste directly to the Tahigas landfill, which is on the Gaviota coast, about 26 miles from here. We provide recycling and composting education programs to your community, and also the Green Business Program, where businesses are encouraged to go through a process where they save water, reduce their trash, save their energy, do good business practices within. And with that, we have an annual event here in Buellton where we recognize those businesses for achieving those things. And really tonight we're here about asking you and looking for your continued participation with the county and partnership in the project we're going to talk about today. This project really started back in 2002 when the Board of Supervisors expanded the Tahigas landfill. And what they said at that time was this was probably the last regulatory permit we would seek at this location. So that left us about a volume of airspace to fill up for landfill disposal. but it also put us on a path to figure out how to make that space last as long as possible. And as I previously mentioned, the Fox and Canyon landfill in the San Ynez Valley was closed in 2005, and all trash on the south coast in the San Ynez Valley now goes to Tehigas. The current landfill capacity at Tehigas runs out in 2026, but what we found when we looked at what we're burying is about 60% of it has reusable potential. 30% is what's called traditional recyclables, aluminum cans, plastic bottles, paper, fiber products. The other 30% is organics, and organics might be a new term to you, but it's basically food waste, the stuff that's compostable, that's within compostable within your trash that when you bury it in the landfill becomes decomposed, creates methane gas, and we collect that methane gas at the base of the landfill and turn it into energy. But it's not the most effective way of collecting that methane gas. By capturing this 60%, and that's really the goal of this whole project, is to extend the life of the landfill. That 2026 deadline actually could extend out another 10 or more years. And while this project started as a landfill expansion, or how to preserve the landfill and extend its life, in the time frame of working on this project, the state's passed many regulations that have put increased emphasis on removing material from the landfill. It started with the statewide goal of diverting 75% of what goes into the landfill. It's created rather few mandatory programs for businesses, both on recyclables and organics. And organics, as I mentioned, have to do with methane generation, and that's one of the biggest greenhouse gas generators as it relates to impact on the environment. This project also will help with alternative or renewable energy moving forward. So again, why we started this as extending this valuable landfill airspace that we're, had permitted, it's now somewhat driven by regulatory requirements to get organics out, to get other materials out, so that we don't have these other environmental impacts associated with landfilling. The state, on the other hand, has also spent a lot of time trying to help jurisdictions move forward on these types of projects. They did a needs assessment based on the organics in the state and where they're going, and the need for additional infrastructure throughout the state. That was called their AD Strategic Initiative, and through that there have been many AD facilities that are either are in operation or are undergoing commissioning or permitting. We are one of the 9 up there, and I believe 2 have, one recently opened about a year ago down in Riverside County. For this project, and I'll get a little bit more into the technical functionality of the project, there's about 150 MRFs that are now in place in the United States. And when our project went to the Board of Supervisors, actually CalRecycle, the regulatory agency that oversees waste management in the state of California, wrote a letter of support on our project. So we're well on the right way as meeting what the state sees as the future of waste management. The project itself is what we call a mixed recovery facility, a MRF. It will take what's in the trash can as well as what's in the blue can, your recyclable can, and sort it. Now, the blue stuff's already sorted and goes to market, so there's another 30% we find in the trash can when we start sorting this material, and will go to markets. The anaerobic digester, take the organic fraction. What it does is basically does what currently happens in the landfill in a rather uncontrolled state, and does it in a very controlled state. And by weight, there's about 30% organics that are currently going into the landfill that will now come out. The process takes about 28 days to change the material, and in that 28 days, it creates a methane gas. And that methane gas then runs engines that then run a generator that then puts energy onto the grid. We still have 40% left. That's going to have to continue to go to the landfill, and will so. By that reduction, again, we get from 2026 as the closure date to 2036. So here's the example of the trash can and how this process would work. goes to the material recovery facility. Within there's magnets and optical sorters and all kinds of belts and whistles, the things that sort trash out, of which 30% becomes organic and becomes anaerobically digested. After it goes through that digestion process, we actually do additional work and compost it out and then hopefully return it to markets. And I talked about the green energy. 30% is recycling markets, or recyclables that will go to traditional recycling markets, and then we have the 40% that continues to the landfill. I got the easy part of the presentation, the kind of the overview and the general. Leslie has done an outstanding job and a heck of a lot of work on the due diligence of the project and the nuts and bolts, and so I'm going to turn it over to her at this point, and you'll hear a lot more about the details.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you, Mark.
Hi, Leslie.
So I'll try not to bore you with the details, but I kind of get deep in the trash and get a little lost, but I'll try and stay focused. So basically, we conducted a procurement process, and the vendor that we ended up choosing is currently, used to be known as Mustang Renewable Power Ventures. Now they've changed their name to MSB Investors, LLC. So what they've done is put together an excellent team, and some of these folks you're going to recognize because some of them are local companies. They've tapped Diani Construction to build the facility. They're going to use a European equipment provider for the material recovery facility. Marburg Industries would operate the MRF, or the material recovery facility. A German company called Beacon would be the equipment provider for the anaerobic digester. And a company that works out at in the Mojave Desert. They currently compost biosolids from Los Angeles County, which has got to be the trickiest thing to manage in the state. They're currently doing that, and they've been tapped to operate the anaerobic digester. As Mark mentioned, this has been a collaboration of staff from a number of different public agencies, including the county and the cities of Goleta, Santa Barbara, Buellton, and Solvang. In addition, we've hired a number of engineering consulting firms that have helped us do a variety of different due diligence reviews. So as I mentioned, this has been a lengthy procurement process. It's actually been 9 years. What we've done through that is we formed the working group consisting of staff from the different participating jurisdictions. We conducted a request for interest to any potential technology providers that were involved in the management of solid waste. Based on our responses received there, we prepared a request for proposals, which we reviewed and ultimately selected MSB Investors. We've actually conducted the CEQA analysis for the project, and as of last week, the timeline for which someone could sue us based on that analysis has expired, so we are lawsuit-free, which is very exciting. Overall, we've conducted over 130 public presentations, so we've covered anybody who's willing to hear about this project, whether it's in their living room or different board meetings. And as we mentioned earlier, we've conducted multiple in-depth financial and engineering reviews. So in July of this year, it was kind of a momentous day. Our board certified the final subsequent EIR for the project. That was a fairly complex document. I believe ultimately it cost a little over $1 million to prepare. We had, in addition to the project, we were asked to conduct near project review of 2 other potential sites because there was a lot of interest in where this facility would be located on the South Coast. In addition, on July, the board received initial results from our financial advisor on the feasibility of publicly financing the project, and I'll provide a little more detail about that later in this presentation. In addition, they approved the waste service contract, which would be between the county and MSB Investors. However, embedded in the contract are a series of conditions precedent which have to be executed in order for this contract to go into effect. The two major factors are getting material delivery and service agreements with our partner jurisdictions, and the second obvious large factor is being able to secure county financing. So as we went through this process, we had to think about, and really more particularly, if we're going to go to public financing, what are the risks that this project could potentially pose to the county and area ratepayers in general. So one of the first risks was obviously technology risk. Is this something that is reliable, something we can count on? Is there anything scary about it? When we initiated our RFP for this project, and as Mark referred to as the conversion technology, we received a number of proposals from different technologies, including pyrolysis, plasma arc gasification. As we went through our review process, it became apparent that perhaps these technologies hold promise in the future, but at this time, in terms of a large-scale commercial operation, they just weren't quite ready for that, nor was the state ready to permit any facility of that type. What we've chosen are much more low-risk proven technologies. The technology provider for the material recovery facility, they have equipment in over 500 facilities worldwide. On the anaerobic digestion side, Beacon, the German company, has 19 facilities that are currently in operation and 8 that are currently in development. A question that we've been hearing quite a bit locally is concern with the organic material that comes out of the anaerobic digester and then would be subsequently composted. What is going to be the quality of this material? Is that something that could be applied to agricultural property? Probably 6 months ago, the state of California came out with very strict regulations associated with what does compost mean? What are the standards? They're very, very strict standards now. Obviously, there's a lot of concern with when you're applying compost onto food products. There's a real concern with quality and pathogens. So what we wanted to do is dive a little deeper into that. Like, what worst case scenario? What would happen if this material wasn't clean enough? If that was something we weren't able to market? Would that pose such an economic factor that it could threaten the feasibility of this project? Basically, what's coming out of the back end of the anaerobic digester and the composting process is only 10% or 16,000 tons of the total material that's going to be processed. So we're not talking about a lot of material. What we're putting in on the front end is close to 200,000 tons. So what's coming out of the end of the anaerobic digester would be 16,000 tons. What we've put in our economic model is not a positive value to get revenue for the sale of this material, but we've actually put in a negative value with the assumption that we may have to pay more money to transport it to a market that would be willing to accept it in the worst case scenario. So we took a very, very conservative approach towards that. Also, the vendor has proposed a very rigorous post-composting screening process involving trommels, screens. There's something new to the industry that a very similar facility is using up in the Gilroy area that's called a densimetric table. I believe there's is it a Titech technology that uses laser to knock out contaminants such as glass and small bits of plastic. And in addition, the vendor, for any material that doesn't meet state specifications, they're held to very strict diversion requirements. So basically 60% of what comes in the front end has to be diverted to another use. So they have a real incentive financially to get it right and to clean up the material to a point where there is a market available for it. I think we're looking at this with really a realistic viewpoint. I don't think our intent is not going to be to apply this onto food crops. We run a mulch program, and that is all the green waste that comes from residents and businesses, and we pull out the tennis balls and the plastic bags, and we grind that material. We have an enormous demand from avocado growers, blueberry growers, rose growers in the Carpinteria Valley. So people or agricultural interests where it's not lettuce. It's not something where the food is actually coming in direct contact. So where there might be the nutritional value or the reduction in erosion qualities or the reduction in moisture loss, they would be able to benefit from those positive attributes. And if there were some plastic bits in it or if there were some glass pieces, it's not the same as growing lettuce out of this type of material. So we actually have an avocado orchard right adjacent to the landfill. It's 1,000 acres. Or, I'm sorry, it's yeah, it is. It's 1,000 acres. And, you know, when we do the computations for how many acres would you need if you applied the compost, you know, it's something close to 15 acres. So it's, for us, we're not seeing it as a huge challenge. And I think on the front end, we're investing a lot in cleaning up this material. So a question comes up, what if we build this mousetrap and it doesn't work? Or what if there's a problem during construction? We've put together a series of tools to protect ourselves. We are requiring construction and performance bonds for the value of the construction and the annual operating costs during the operating period. The technology vendors are providing warranties. We have comprehensive insurance policies. We've been working both with our risk manager as well as the risk manager for the city of Santa Barbara to ensure we've got whatever insurance policies are necessary in order to, we're willing to pay the higher upfront costs for a more comprehensive insurance program rather than risking any higher costs at the tail end. We also have specified liquidated damages if the performance guarantees aren't met, as well as a very detailed protocol to develop a compliance plan if these performance guarantees are not met. On the financial side, what we're looking at is it's a $110 million project, and we're going to be amortizing it over 20 years. What we are asking, including ourselves, is for anyone who wants to use this facility, we're looking for 20-year commitments in order to do that. And the bond folks want to see that level of commitment to ensure that they're able to be repaid for any bond proceeds that we receive. Some of the financial risks associated with the project, probably one of the biggest ones is the change in recyclables value. So that's not something we have a lot of control over. If there are issues, apparently when the Olympics were in China, they shut down a lot of their manufacturing to enhance their air quality, and as a result, no cardboard was manufactured, and so they had no demand for paper from the United States during that time period. So there are international market risks that can affect our cash flow associated with recyclable value. We've made a very conservative assumption, but in addition, we've agreed to create a $5 million rate stability fund to buffer any of those market fluctuations. The total budget that we're expecting to receive, the total revenue, is about it's close to $9 million. So by having a $5 million rate stability fund, we feel like that's a pretty good cushion. I mean, the values would have to drop by more than half before we're going to have to make an impact on the ratepayers. In addition, we have included $9 million in reserves to cover the last year of financing. And obviously, if there's any change in the interest rate between now and when the bond proceeds or the bonds are sold, that could impact the cost of the project. So as we were negotiating with our selected vendor on our waste service agreement, it became really clear the price for the private financing was just too high. And they were trying to shift a lot of the risks back onto the jurisdictions. And we were thinking, why are we covering the risks and we're paying this high rate of return on this private financing? So we hired a consulting firm to do an analysis of doing the project using public financing and made the necessary adjustments to the project model under that scenario. We also looked at Originally, we had looked at forming a JPA, and the city of Santa Barbara didn't want to do that. So we looked at, well, who would be the likely agency that would go and get the bond finance? And we thought, because the county owns the project site, because the county has a long-term credit history, instead of if we formed a JPA, wouldn't really have that kind of a credit history, probably makes sense for the county to secure the bonds. What came out of the result of this analysis was that the ratepayer could save approximately 30% if we went to this publicly financed model. So what we're looking at, when we conducted the RFP, we asked the technology providers to, that they had to meet the criteria of being under $100 per ton. Currently, the landfill tipping fee is $87 a ton. So in addition, there were going to be additional costs associated with closure, post-closure, requirements associated with the landfill, and other community programs that we provide. So it would have been a total of $122. Under the privately financed scenario, we were looking at closer to $146 a ton. Under the publicly financed scenario, it is $105 a ton. So what does that mean to your ratepayers? Well, about 40% of your ratepayers' bill is associated with the tipping fee or the processing cost of managing the material they collect. The other 60% is their cost to collect the material from your home. That's for the containers, the drivers, the trucks. So if you were to set the disposal portion of the fee at the service charge at $105 per ton, it would be approximately $5 increase per month from today's rates. Now we're talking about this increase going into effect in 2 years. So as I mentioned, we are currently in the process of negotiating with the different cities on long-term material delivery and service agreements. I know, and we have talked with your city manager, Mark, to some degree about Buellton with regards to whether it would be more appropriate for Buellton, because you have a contract with Marburg as your hauling company, that perhaps it would be Marburg that would contract with the county to deliver material to this facility rather than the contract being between the jurisdiction and the county. And that's, that's a policy call, and however it works best in your agreement. But we are currently sitting at the table with the cities of Santa Barbara and Goleta. They represent a large portion of the waste stream that would be going to this facility. We're hoping we have our final session scheduled for about a week and a half. I think we're very close to finalizing those agreements. They're planning to bring those agreements to their councils on October 18th, if all goes well. So in terms of a timeline, our board is looking to see what agreements we have in place. We would go to probably simultaneously, we would bring those the material delivery agreements with the different jurisdictions to the board at the same time as we brought our financing package to release to secure bond proceeds. So we're hoping to do that November-ish. At least that's the goal. If we can do that, construction would begin in 2017, and the facility would become operational in January of 2019. So that is all the information I was going to present. I know that's a lot of information, and unfortunately, we had not come back to your council in, I'm not sure how long it's been, over a year for sure. So I know that was a lot of information to absorb. Again, something that we've really been pointing out and recognizing is the state has passed 3 new pieces of legislation in the last year, and 2 of them are associated with organics. Organics collection and or sorting out of the mixed waste stream is required. And that program started in April of 2016 for the large generators, and every year they ratchet it down. They're also requiring every jurisdiction to have 15 years of organics processing infrastructure. So while, as Mark Schleich explained, when we came in, this was how do we extend the landfill, and now it's becoming how do we get in compliance with current and future waste management laws. And so when we're comparing, well, what does it cost to manage waste now we can't really compare it to that because we know we're going to have to implement new programs in order to be in compliance with those laws. So just think about that when we're thinking about, well, it's going to be a $5 increase to our ratepayers. So I am concluding my presentation.
Leslie, thank you. The $5 per month, when do you anticipate, would that come in the 2019, or would you be trying to collect that 2017 going forward?
So Mayor Andrusik and City Council members, what we're looking at right now is kind of like a more tiered increase. So we were looking at potentially in July of 2017, going from 87 to potentially, 95, 96, and then the next year it would climb up to whatever the actual tipping fee needs to be. And what we would be able to do is those excess revenue we generated that in that first tier, we would be able to sock into that jurisdictional rate stability fund to try and buffer if there was any fluctuations in recycling value.
So and then the other question I had, but I want to go back to that. Santa Barbara, how did that percentage shake out? Before they had a number that they thought they would be taking for this, their percentage, and Goleta. I think Goleta was about 15% last time we looked. Are they still 15?
Mayor Andrusik and City Council members, yes. Goleta's actually, and Buellton are probably the only areas really where we may see an increase in tonnage over time. The county and the city of Santa Barbara, it's really maintained quite steady. Santa Barbara is approximately, I would say, is it 35%? I think it's approximately 35%. Goleta is another 15. Right, and the county represents closer to about, well, I'm sorry, I haven't looked at those percentages in a while. But it's at least another third, and I think between Buellton and Solvang represent about 3% each.
Yeah, there's roughly 5 collectively, 5 or 6 between the two.
That's correct.
Okay. And the effective date, you answered that. I was just curious if you had any more usage lock on, or you didn't have any private industry that's going to come in and bid their to get rid of their trash. Just wondering if they were going to be coming in using that system, the anaerobic system.
Mayor Andrusik, we interestingly, a lot of the major organics generators are grocery stores, and so we've actually just got a Sprouts, and we've just set up the food waste collection for them, and they generated, I think it was about a 10 last week alone. So there is the opportunity, obviously, once we have the facility, to be able to court that kind of material to come to the facility and help us generate, more biogas and get more energy coming out of the anaerobic digester.
And then the final question I'd have is, has Marburg agreed to, do you have a process where Buellton will be credited with they weigh in our garbage for the percent? And they have 2 different collectors, Solvang and Buellton each use a different collector, so I guess the county will be logging that effectively.
So Mayor Andrusik, yes. Marburg actually has a few different sources of material. One would be from the city of Goleta. They also have a significant amount of material that comes out of the back end of their sorting facility from self-haulers and their roll-off business. They won't be bringing it to the sorting facility because it's already been sorted, but they will be continuing to bring it to our landfill, which obviously helps the finances for the whole project.
Okay. No, straight tipping. Okay, that. Any other questions?
Yeah. Is the facility actually being built at the Tegas landfill, right at that location?
Mayor Andrusik, Councilmember Bauman, excuse me, yes, and I'm sorry if we glossed over that. There is a site there now. It's approximately 6 acres. It's currently fill material, so it's not formally landfill, but there's areas like near the parking where you've got the landfill and the fill converging, and so we're expecting some settlement. That has definitely increased some of the construction costs, but yes, it's proposed to be sited at the Tejas landfill.
And so when that landfill closes in 2036 to hopefully 39, since your financing will go that long probably, that's the end of the life of the facility.
So actually, what we'll need to do is another EIR as we get close to that time. There is actually room to further expand that landfill. Our board, the direction we've received from the board, I think it was in 2003, was to shut it down once this existing permit expired. But from a technological standpoint, there continues to be room there. Also, what is included in the agreement is that we get the facility for $1 at the end of the 20 years. And so basically, it's going to be running, it's supposed to be running as well as when it started. And so it's not going to be something we're probably going to want to mothball, even if the landfill is no longer, there's a policy decision not to expand the landfill. We will be able to continue to process material at that facility and then find another location for the residual.
Okay, and last question. You had mentioned how the state has passed several very restrictive laws regarding the organics. I assume that your risk assessment has included possibilities of further restrictions. Is the technology adaptable, or is there, have you foreseen anything like that could happen?
Councilmember Baumann, I'm not sure what's left in the trash. We will end up with something, if you look at like the back end of different composting operations, you see a lot of plastic film, you see a lot of bits of plastic that's too small to fit into a bale to be able to sell. So something like that could be gasified. If in 20 years gasification has reached a point where they're able to control air emissions and that type of thing, you could potentially recover at least energy from that material. But short of that, I think it could potentially lead to a ban on the disposal of our organics, but I think our facility would be able to accommodate that. Other than that, I'm not sure what other regulations could come down the pike.
Thanks.
Thank you. One other question. I'm just curious, Marburg, their current processing facilities, it sounds like with these new stringent requirements coming down from the state, I'm assuming that they would either have to ship their product to, let's say, your facility or update theirs in order to comply?
So Councilmember Elevitz, originally how Marburg started that facility was it was designed to process construction and demolition debris. So this is something you would see in a large, they call them roll-off boxes. The sides are kind of low. You get one if you're cutting down your tree or you're remodeling your house. So typically there's a lot of green waste, there's a lot of wood, there's gypsum, there's dirt, there's concrete. So all that stuff that you don't want to put on the sophisticated automated line that we're building, that has lasers and magnets, and something like that could actually do significant damage. So Marburg is actually still going to continue to process this more bulky material at their facility. And based on what they're currently receiving, it's still going to be a very robust operation. What they won't be processing is mixed solid waste.
Right. So what do they do with the solid waste now that they get?
So currently they actually do put some of it over their line, and then they have the manual sorters that stand on either side of the line, and they might pull out, the cardboard and different materials. I think from a efficiency standpoint, it's not as efficient as what we're proposing because they just don't have the technologies in place. Theirs is a fully manual sorting, which is very suitable. It's labor intensive, but it's suitable for the kind of material that they were originally going to be sorting at that facility. So I think they'll continue to do that.
I guess what I was getting at was, let's say we opted out of this program. It sounds like one way or another we're still going to be held to stringent requirements that the state's passing down, and it might end up costing us more. And I guess that's what I'm getting at. If Marburg is our contractor, they're not going to be able to do it by themselves. So some additional cost is going to come up the work is going to get passed on to us. And if I remember, I don't know why I'm thinking this, but because it's been a long time since you were here last time, but the projected increase of $5 a month wasn't about the same that back then. So based on everything you've explained so far, which is kind of like a space launch, except in the other direction, I'm kind of amazed that you're still able to hold to that price. So I'm impressed.
So Councilmember Elovitz, you are correct. Marburg doesn't have a facility to process, for example, food waste, right? They need to have a facility or contract with some other facility, or they would potentially end up using our facility and they'd have to pass that cost on to you anyway. There's a real lack of that kind of infrastructure, frankly, throughout the entire state. So that additional cost would be incurred in the future.
If I can just chip in, I know they do food waste at the Marriott, so they do take it someplace for recycling, and when I've talked with them, they indicated that this new requirement for organics, they will take care of the city. So, I've already been in contact with them regarding that. I think
the Marriott has committed to refining or screening it and closing it so someone doesn't come by and pollute it. And then, wasn't that the big difference in this European thing that was observed, where they cook, where they incinerate the liquids? Would that be the reason that went away, or is that how it would be handled? I can't remember how.
Sure. The engineer among us is going to answer the question.
Get your charts out.
So, Mary Andrzejczyk, so there's a couple thoughts going on here. First off, yes, Marburg is your hauler, and a lot of jurisdictions put the responsibility of doing this on their hauler, Marburg in this case. Just want to remind you, Marburg is the operator, of our facility. So I think Marburg might talk to Marburg, and it might end up with us anyway. The issue of incineration, we're not proposing incineration.
No, I understand.
Okay, and there's
European model.
Well, and there's anaerobic digestion and organics is 50 or more % moisture. So if you're going to use heat to make energy, you first have to evaporate all that water, which is a lot of wasted energy. So the energy balance doesn't work very well if you're treating organic material in an incinerator. In fact, the goal of incinerators is to get all that organic wet stuff out of there so they go straight to energy. And then I think in the state of California, back to the regulatory question, I think the focus really is on greenhouse gases and the organics that go in landfills that create those greenhouse gases. In my personal opinion, I think that the state says, well, landfills are easy targets to pick on because there's nobody that's there except the operator of the landfill, so they're not going to show up in large numbers at public hearings. But the reality is it's all of the stuff we throw away that goes there that creates that issue that becomes a fiscal impact to your ratepayers. That way we get the targets on our back instead of the state. That's my personal view. Anyway, their focus is on organics. In 1999, they passed AB 939, which started the whole recycling program of cans and bottles and paper and all that. We're in now 2005 is when they passed the 75% diversion. So that legislation for getting recyclables out lasted about 25 years. Their new focus is on organics. I think the cycle for that process, Santa Barbara County is well ahead of the curve on these mandates. I've done presentations with Supervisor Farr at county organizations, and these legislations are getting rolled out. And my message to them is you can't start early enough. The level of organic sorting that's already on the books by 2020, I think, is 50% diversion, and I got to tell you, that's a very aggressive goal. I think it's on the governor's desk this year. I don't know if he signed it or not, but it's been enrolled, I guess is the correct term, is actually pushing that to at least 75% or maybe higher by 2025. And that's being pushed by the Air Resource Board, not even by the Recycling Board. And again, it all has to do with this greenhouse gas, methane, and the weight of methane compared to carbon dioxide and its impact on the environment. I tried to field about 5 or 6 questions. I hope I got all of them. If I missed any, please come back at me.
Okay, this is so at this juncture, Mark, is this something, I appreciate you guys' presentation.
Sure.
That was very well done. At this juncture, are we looking toward making a decision somewhere and supporting them, or
Not at this point. What I was going to bring forth, the next step is I'm going to be meeting with the county to go over the material delivery agreement and see what the implications are to the city, negotiate that, and then bring that agreement back to the city council to review.
If we could involve Marburg in that at some point?
They are involved. I stay in contact with them regarding this process.
They've been such an amazing job.
Yeah, so that's the next steps is we're going to start the negotiations on the agreements.
Yep. Their thoughts and opinions value.
At this point, my question was just, who, at today's date, do you envision owning the aerobic digestion facility? The county or percentages?
Well, the county's financing the project, so the county ultimately is the owner. We're looking for partners, and that's kind of the tone that's within our material delivery agreement, which Mark will see in a lot greater detail.
Right. And that's where this really all started years ago, and the percentages really haven't changed, but actually it seems like it's becoming more efficient and closer to reality. So we're still, but can't get off the fence. Just didn't want us to wind up having to be handed increase after increase because other parties that we have no control over have chosen to run the meter up, and then we wind up telling our customers they have to, because we did accomplish a very big savings by taking on Marburg's contract, and they've been very responsible. So I think we all have a great deal of respect and trust that they will do the most efficient thing for our ratepayers.
Yeah. Cool. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Leslie? I don't have any speaker slip from anyone. Anybody want to know?
All right.
Marcel, do you have a question? You need to come to the microphone.
It's going to be brought up again, Ed. I think
okay.
We're just at the discussion point. So.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you, Marcel. Appreciate it. He's involved with the Lompoc City program. Okay. Consideration for contract amendment. We're at agenda item 6. Consideration of contract amendment with Revant. And this is for Mr. Brzezinski. I will wait for the Congress for your presentation.
All right, Honorable Mayor, members of the City Council, we entered into a contract amendment with Rovat, Albrecht & Associates for work on the Avenue Flag specific plan, and at the time the budget was $30,000. As we moved through the process, we had more detailed design work than was initially anticipated. If you looked at the specific plan and saw the detail that we've provided in there, and it has exceeded the budget, and they have performed this additional work without payment and are respectfully asking for reimbursement in the amount of $24,000. Mr. Rovat understood his firm was working without the benefit of a contract amendment, but did not want to stop the momentum of the specific plan. Staff believes the additional design work has enhanced the specific plan and will make the document user-friendly for the public and the development community, and supports the request. In addition, during our last meetings with the Council, Planning Commission, and Community, there was a request for 3D flyby graphics, along with more details on the form-based code, including specific examples, and that would cost an additional $19,200. The additional $43,200, if approved, would come from the planning contract services budget, and we have money to accommodate that. So staff is recommending that the City Council consider authorizing the city manager to amend the contract with Rivette Albrecht and Associates to budget an additional $43,200 for work on the Avenue Flag specific plan, and I'm available to answer any questions.
I do not have any speaker slips. Do we have any comment from the council first?
I have some comments. Two things that they did work outside the scope of the original contract, yeah, I think they should be reimbursed. I'm wondering though if they would accept some kind of reduction in the fees that they're proposing, and second, the 3D flyby and form-based code, more samples that are being requested. I'm not really familiar with, the market rate for that kind of stuff, and is that something that staff has looked into?
Yeah, the 3D animations they're using, they're doing on their own. If we went to another firm, it would be more expensive for a computer-generated simulation. So they have it already in-house and able to accomplish. So we feel it's an adequate amount or a reasonable amount.
Do you think that between what they want to collect on work that has been performed outside the scope of the contract and what would be proposed for these additional requests, do you think that maybe between the two they can come up with one figure that is less than what we have here and maybe give us a deal?
I think he would be open to that because he realized he's been doing the work pro bono at this time. Okay. So if you'd like to defer this for me to contact him, or if you want to give an amount that you would authorize, and I can go back to him if that's not acceptable, and I can bring it back. But he understood the ramifications, and he was informed before he started the work, and he understood where he was going with all of this.
I would like to ask, obviously, to get the best amount of service for the least amount would obviously be my goal, and I guess off the top, I would think if you do it for the half of what is combined between what is owned and what he proposes for the next phase. So I guess half of the total. Unless
I support that same.
And that's. Oh, I'm sorry.
I have some comments before we go that far into the woods with this idea. Our visioning, we set aside $100,000. I remember the $100,000. I had several residents that had a hard time swallowing the $100,000. That was when we had redevelopment. We don't have redevelopment now. And I'm tiring of the specific plan and the ongoing meter that's running, whether it be this issue or I was prepared to ask that we get a full accounting of what we've spent. We've had public meetings, we have had lots of expenses, and I know that, when it referred to this specific item, I was recalling that the kinds of things we were going to be doing would be doing in-house because we have the capability to do it, and I have no idea what we've done, but it's always, I guess I'm always happy when someone says you saved $85 on this deal, and I don't have to hear, however, I'm going to need $50 from you to give you this deal after we've paid the $85. So I'm very negative to it, given that we've lost our redevelopment. We saw a $50 million proposal come down to $24 million now, and I don't see anybody lining up or any pathway for the 24 million. And after the two last public meetings we had, there's been conversation, people wanting to know where's this money going to come from? And with the absence of a taker, I mean, the village-specific plan, we have revenue coming in, and we're improving the community, and investments are being made. I'm sorry, but visioning isn't really moving to the speed that I would like to. I don't know. I don't want a speed. We were going to have an idea, and that was with redevelopment. We do not have a format or a formula for revenue increasing, and we're staring down the barrel of rate increases. People are really taking the water and sewer rate increases on, and I think they expect that they're going to eventually have some sort of liability for whatever amounts of things, these kinds of expenditures. The money does not come from the heavens, and so I frankly would like to have a full council. I would be interested in Holly's input. I think, I'm sorry that this man I appreciate what he's done, but I just think this is moving out into the marsh, and we have no footing. I don't see what our potential benefit will be for this, given that we have nobody on the wings saying, here's what we want to do. And we continue to have people from Lancaster. I was very unhappy with a huge city presenting an idea for a little tiny city of 5,000. There's 100,000 people. So I don't know. I think it's worked its way off the working table for me.
And if I can, sure, to address the other consultant we have, our planning consultant, is within his 30,000, working on that, and the rest of the time is staff that has worked on this, but we don't have the architectural expertise. And as far as people wanting to develop, we've met with 3/4 now of the property owners and business owners. They are excited about this plan going into effect. I've met with Mr. Robinson, Mr. Cusack for 518. They're interested in moving forward with something on this, as well as one of the hotels, along with Carrie, and then the business owners. They really see a benefit for improvements to parking and flat work on the medians that we're trying to move forward with this. So there is interest from local people on this, and but it's up to the council on where they want to move this.
My personal feeling is we've taught 2 tourism communities in this valley. The other tourism community has been extremely successful since they did their parking district. It's been 8 years since I asked, and the law firm is prepared how to do a parking district, but we've not moved 1 inch closer to that. And yet we have 2 islands sitting there, and when I bring it up to people that want to see trees and restricted, when I heard staff say we don't need that many parking spaces, therefore we want to put kiosks or something on the avenue, I'm taking real strong opposition to it, to the point that we could have had a parking district already, and I think it would have already excited people to come and buy those properties that are sitting flailing on the avenue financially. And it's I can well believe that our electorate is tiring of us dreaming to nowhere. We don't have any. I know we have the property owners. They said, and when I went back and listened to the presentations, they said yes, they want a parking district was the first thing. A public restroom on the avenue was a very strong item. I don't know why we don't go ahead and do those, and then when someone comes to town with $23 or $28 million, we can listen to their idea. But until then, I think we owe it to our tourists to dress up our avenue and
I quite agree, and I think that's the purpose of the specific plan, is to try to get that there. And I've actually talked to a property owner regarding a parking district this week. So we want to move forward on that, and it's a key component of the specific plan.
I don't know if I'm going to live long enough for it.
Could I, Mr. Mayor, could I make a comment?
Yes.
Sorry.
Sure.
Council inform me as to if this is correct or not, Mr. Brzezinski, but didn't council unanimously support funding the step at which we're at with the specific plan of this hiring all the consultants? And can you tell me what the cost was? Do you recall what the cost was?
It was 30 for the one planning consultant, 30 for the architectural consultant, who's now this item before you. Okay. And then Cosmont's our standard that's included with our yearly contract with them.
And was that a consensus of the council?
It was, I think it was unanimous vote of the council.
Okay. So we took, that's the phase we're at now, okay? And council unanimously voted to go ahead with it. We may or may not decide to add this additional money, but I think what I hear Mayor Andrusik saying is that to pull the plug on the whole thing. And yes, there has been a lot of expense. You can go way back to all the studies that have been done. I mean, they're all part of the same thing. All that has come up to this point, and I don't think this is a proper place to discuss stopping the specific plan, if that's what you're suggesting. But more to the point would be whether or not, I guess, we fund what the architect is owed, and if we're going to fund the next step of it. But since we all agreed to bring this specific plan to the point where it is right now, we should either just make the decision to fund the architect, or we should definitely consider reimbursing them at some price, since they have done work pro bono up to this point. But I hope you're not asking council to pull the plug on the entire process, because it sounds from what Mr. Brzezinski has said, we have made a big gain and moved forward with a lot of what can be a very a potential plan, and apparently there's a lot of interest in it. So I guess what I'm asking you is what would you like to do at this point as far as the money?
I have two saline comments that need to be thoroughly sunk into each of the legislators who will decide. When we agreed to the 100,000, there was redevelopment. Since that time, redevelopment has gone away. We did the best we could to keep our redevelopment, and we failed. That's item one. Two is, how much have we spent? Because, and I was wanting to find out where we are. I mean, we have Saturday meetings, we have our staff, I know the people are not dedicating their time. We show up for those things, but I don't imagine that our staff comes without compensation, whether it's comp time or, so it is an expense, and it needs to be properly, and I'm sure Tyler can tell us how much we've got invested in this process. And I think that has gone above and beyond what I anticipated. When I voted on the 100,000, it was, and then it was always, well, we should continue. I think we've gotten a very good a good working relationship with Cosmont, but I think that we have somehow, I mean, the flybys just sent me up in the air with the wanting to do a flyby view. For what? If we have somebody that says, you give me a flyby, I will enter into an agreement to do this, that, these, and those, then I'm all ears. But we don't have anybody. We're talking to ourselves. So that's that's where I'm at on it, and I think we should have the whole council for this, perhaps for this discussion, simply because I think we could have already had a parking district up and running and let that thing go. We talked about fiber optics, making it attractive and not getting so design-oriented in it, a place to park. There's been a lot of discussion, but not any real improvement. I remember Dave King telling us when he was first on the council that's the thing with the avenue, and people just come to town and here's the same avenue. It's there. So I don't think, I'm not saying that I want to stop it, perhaps mothball it, because I don't see a financial pathway for us to continue this, and if we've got the money for this, we're going to be asked, why do we have to raise the money? I know it's an enterprise fund, so I'm not, but citizens don't understand why they have to pay more money for city services if we're paying out revenue for something that has no buyer.
Mr. Mayor, before we forget, I think Councilman Bauman had something to...
Sure. Okay.
I basically want to say that I completely disagree with the mayor on this issue. Okay. I feel like what we're doing is trying to prevent the haphazard development of our avenue, which is what will take place if we don't define what we want to see. And I think it's a very important step. And yes, there's some cost involved in it. Part of it is that. The other part of it is the marketing of what we decide, because we do have to market the idea if we're going to get any takers. And I've heard definitely from developers that I've talked to that of the usefulness, both in seeing our dedication to the process, tells them that we're dedicated to making something happen, which is extremely important to a developer. And most importantly, the developer's understanding of exactly what they can do here. If they're just nobody's willing to consider to take on a project like this if they don't know that information up front. So I'm a big supporter of the form-based development plan, and I feel like, first of all, if we, meaning the council and the planning department, has asked the architect to do additional work, that we are bound to compensate them for that.
That's a very small portion of what the issue is.
And then if the planning commission thought it was important enough to ask for a flyby, maybe it is, maybe it isn't, maybe that should be looked at. I think a good solution is the one that Councilman Elovitz put forward, which was to make an offer to try to accomplish this at half of what has been proposed as a billing.
And maybe we drop the 3D at this time, just as a, that's something in the future. If
that would be something that I would support.
Just one quick comment, John.
Sure.
Depending on what transpires within the next month or so, that might be, because you brought up, it needs to be marketed, could be, if it looks like this thing's going to go, that could be a tool that would be very useful for marketing. And then John, please.
Yeah, no, and Mr. Mayor, I do appreciate what you had to say. I have to agree that, we did make an agreement with these people, and I think mothballing will even, you mentioned mothballing, I think that's going to extend it even more than where we're at right now. We did have an agreement at some point in time. I do support the form-based development plan, and I also support the idea of meeting them maybe at half cost and seeing where that goes, because I think that would be the best idea we have on the table here. But I do appreciate what you said, Mr. Mayor. I think that we do have an agreement with them, and I'd like to honor it in good faith. So
I know your frustration, and I share it, but I don't think that the parking district issue really has a bearing on this particular question. So I get it, but I don't think it has bearing here.
A half cost would be $21,600.
That's with the flyby still included?
I imagine that we would drop the flyby out, but it's half of what's asked for, and I talked to the architect regarding, moving forward. And
I think that, if there was somebody, I do agree in this regard, if there was a project that was ready to move forward and somebody wanted to see a flyby, I think that could be something that's more appropriate at that point.
Yeah.
And that can be a line item component that maybe whoever comes in might want to fund.
Yep.
Right. I just want to say that, yeah, I understand that I understand it's very frustrating, this whole thing, and it's very complex, and so Mayor Andrusik, it's not any surprise, because I think it's been a very difficult haul, you know. And the concept of a parking district, I think, is going to have to be part of the overall plan. I mean, you've talked about that for a long time, and it's essential. But I guess at this point, we need to make a motion for, what I'm not clear on is the total cost, if you included the flyby, is $43,200. So if we're going to drop that, then what we owe them is, what, 24? That they're asking for 24,000?
There's 20, and I would enter negotiations with them based on the amount that you authorize, and we wouldn't do the flybys, that would fall out, and we'd probably partially reimburse for the prior work.
That's what I was expecting. Okay. So would a motion be the best thing here?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'd like to motion that we go with staff recommendations, that you negotiate with them, try to work the half price without the flyby.
Which would be $21,600.
$21,600.
That's the part I agree I don't get.
Yeah.
If it's $46,000 total with the flyby,
$43,200. Yeah.
and then we drop the flyby, and then try to do half of that, should be more like in a
10,
12, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the flyby was the flyby 24?
The flyby was 10, I believe it's 10,500.
Okay, so
Oh, okay.
10.5 would be 32.7.
And half of
And then
that,
half of that would be 16,350.
change.
16,350?
Well, I'm just doing.
No, that
five
just-
off. I took 5 off, or 10 off of the 43.2, made it 32.7. Half of that came up with 16.
No, flyby was how much again?
10,000.
I think you said 10.
10,000.
Made it 10,000.
Okay.
So maybe the motion would be
16,350. Yes.
How much is that again?
16,350.
That sounds better. Okay.
I would ask perhaps a substitute, or ask the motion maker if you would include in that we have a true city expense. What money have we spent since we started the $100,000 expenditure?
And 100 was for visioning or for the specific plan? Visioning and specific plan are two different.
I do not remember which was which, and if we've got two of those going,
I will do
doubly bad.
Well, visioning was a vision process that, concluded in 2012. Specific plan we started in 2014, and it had a separate budget from visioning. So that's what
Perhaps if we had that, I don't think anyone up here has that idea or that number. I certainly know the citizens don't. The 100 was for the
vision, not the specific plan.
And the visioning is done?
That was done in 2012. There was no...
Do we know what was spent for that, or how that accounted? Then just
The
that,
specific
and then-
plan was 30 and 30 for consultants, plus then there was staff time, plus Cosmon had their yearly amount that's authorized, and their work is included within that.
I guess that's the part that's frustrating me, because we've got so many things that are included. So I just want to know what is the number, so we can tell people.
And I'll do my best for staff time. It's part of our normal duties for doing work and planning that we don't
But I
account
meant
for all
when
those
you-
types.
When you attach somebody's what were they doing? They worked on specific plan or on visioning that...
We don't break...
I think we're getting in the weeds on this.
I don't break up my time as city manager into those types of things.
I'm going to make a motion.
Okay.
I'm not going to include that, but I'll hope that we'll work that into it in time. I know that's not what everybody wants to hear, but I would like to make a motion as before that we negotiate with the contractor. Mark does go with staff recommendation. Aim for $16,350, I believe was the number.
That is correct.
And was that the last moment? I believe that was the last thing. That is my motion.
I'll second that.
Okay. If you call the roll.
Okay, Councilmember Connolly.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Bauman.
Aye.
Councilmember Elevitz.
Aye.
And Mayor Andrusik.
No.
But I will provide an accounting. That's easy. For what I have, I can do that. That's not a problem.
That's the reason why I didn't
I
throw that.
understand that, and it's just that we have a running balance on almost everything that I've ever done. I know where we stand and what I owe the contractor or whatever agreement I've made, and we don't seem to be, it doesn't seem quite as clear. So I appreciate the request for clarity and the willingness.
Yes. No, not a problem. We have all of that, and everybody else is under, so.
Okay. And we got the motion for that. So we're at item 7. Resolution 1618, resolution of council, City of Buellton, regarding parking restrictions on Highway 246 from Industrial Way to Freer Drive. And Ms. Haston,
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members, City Council. This is somewhat of a cleanup item resolution. Over the past several years that the city has been a city, we've brought forward resolutions to the council for red curbs along Highway 246, for site distance issues, bus stop related operational issues, and other items that weren't necessarily brought to council but approved like part of project developments. For example, in front of Juliet Walk for red curbs. This kind of review and cleanup item precipitated from the following council item and discussions with Caltrans to clean up and help them complete their historical records of red curbs along Highway 246 since they have jurisdiction over the highway. So this resolution is specific to the locations on 246 from let me see here. Industrial Way to Freeyard Drive, so the eastern part of the city. Exhibit A to the resolution provides you with the locations of these existing red curbs. Again, these are existing red curbs the city has already been maintaining over the years, so it's just a cleanup item. So with that, there's no additional fiscal impacts to the city, but we're recommending that the council adopt this resolution 1618, and we will forward it to Caltrans to help complete their files for the red curbs within this vicinity of the city. I'm available to answer questions.
I'm sorry.
Well, I just was going to, I do not have any speaker slips for this, so I guess we're going to council comments. I had a question for you, but
yeah, and I just want a clarification too. Oh, no,
go right ahead.
First. Okay. So you talked about cleanup in that regard. So currently there is no, it's not painted at this juncture, right?
They are painted. They are existing red curbs. It's cleanup as far as paperwork within Caltrans files.
Okay.
So the city, we have the resolutions from past projects or requests that we brought to council for red curbs that we've asked for bus stop or site distance issues. There's parts of the red curbs that were installed for private development projects that don't go through the city formally, but go through encroachment through Caltrans.
So it's reorganizing it
it's putting it all together in one.
New construction.
Right. It's just putting all of the existing red curbs in this location in one resolution, so it's one easy spot for Caltrans to reference.
Thank you, Rose. Go ahead, Ed.
Okay, Rose, I was, remembering why we lost the parking. As I recall, someone said that we didn't have the width of a car and the 2 lanes.
That's the next item.
Oh, the next.
That's the next agenda item.
I want.
And if I could ask this other question as well, I'm sorry. I know a lot of times that when new vehicles for sale are brought in, a tractor trailer comes in. Sometimes it's right there in the middle. Sometimes it's offside, and I know there are not a lot of options for them. Is this affecting them in any way? Is this?
This item does not, because it's already existing. There are not new red curbs in this particular resolution. It's all just, everything that's existing is now on between industrial to the east end of the city will be in one resolution. So they can continue doing those, stops as they have been.
That's all I have.
Do not have any speaker slips. Anyone want to make the motion?
Okay, I would make a motion for resolution number 16-18, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Buellton, California regarding parking restrictions on Highway 246 from Industrial Way to Freeyard Drive. Do I have a second?
I'll second the motion.
Please call the roll.
Okay, Councilmember Connolly.
Aye.
Councilmember Elovitz.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Bauman.
Aye.
And Mayor Andrusik.
Aye. Agenda item 8, Resolution 1620, Resolution of the City Council, City of Buellton regarding parking restrictions on Highway 246 from Industrial Way to Riverview. Mrs. Hess.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of City Council. So this is the original item that precipitated all the review of the red curbs on 246. And it initiated when staff found these repetitive signs, frequently placed signs on the south side of Highway 246 between Industrial Way and Riverview Drive. They were being installed by Caltrans. When we began our discussions with them, they said they were reviewing the sites for safety issues, and in their review, the shoulder width that's there, that's paved, that's marked with the white lane line, is not wide enough to accommodate a parked vehicle, bicycles, and through traffic. So with the deficiency in that shoulder width requirement, they've determined that they need to place no stopping signs and restrictions on that portion. They're planning to do that on the south side as well as the north side, between Riverview Drive and Industrial Way, the entire length of that area. Since it's Caltrans jurisdiction for that highway, it's either they're going to install it in that frequency. Staff had discussed with them that we don't feel that the number of signs they're putting up is necessary, because we haven't witnessed any vehicles that were stopped in that location or parked, or any site distance issues or anything that would create that kind of safety concern. But having said that, numerically, as far as them accounting for the actual width of the shoulder lane area, they found that there's a deficiency in that width requirement. So the option was either Caltrans continue their signs, or the city can install the no stopping anytime signs at a distance of signage that is enforceable by our local law enforcement. So with that, city felt it probably is more justifiable that we can place fewer signs in the middle, at the end of the blocks, as opposed to every so many feet, which is a bit of overkill we feel in that area. We've worked with the Sheriff's Department to make sure that the signage will have the appropriate wording, arrows, etc. So should there be a vehicle that's parked there, it's something that would be enforceable. And with that, we've created the resolution 1620 that now provides no stopping between Riverview Drive and Industrial Way, which is the west half of the city, to accommodate this issue. Are there any questions I can try to answer?
My question was,
yes,
as I'm driving down the center between the double yellow lines, that's really like a left turn lane.
That is not a driving lane, correct. That is, it's a striped median that you're able to maneuver into and turn and make your turn movements.
Correct. And I just feel if the issue was not being able, I would like the city and visitors to the city to be able to park at the concrete curb, but the rule is where that white line is. There seems to be enough real estate from curb to curb to move the white line over if you make the yellow line simply the size that they have on 246 going into Solvang. It's room for typically one car. Clearly, two cars can traverse what they've taken up. They're hogging the road, so to speak, at the expense of people being able to park at the curb, both on the north and south side of 246.
That is a potential option.
Can we request they consider that? I know we have to ask them.
We had brought that up as far as doing that, but keep in mind there is already an advertise and bid opening on a major construction project that's using existing striping for that, and that goes from Highway 101 all the way to Drum Canyon. That includes our sidewalk work in between Avenue Flags and 101. So we would not be able to do a design change on that at this point in time. It's something we could probably approach them and consider in the future to do, but I wouldn't be optimistic to getting that request moved forward in a short time frame.
Boo-hoo. Because it's there. And I think the street, the car park, the car carriers or truck carrier, the vehicle carrying trucks stopping in the middle of the street, I think does cause a hazard down between McMurray and the city boundary, because they just, but that's the only place they can go. I realize that, but it just seemed like that area on this side of Industrial Way could be simply restriped to make to allow people to be able to park on the stripe.
The roadway width is wider on this west end.
And that's something long-term we can work with them, but if we don't put our own no stopping signs, they're going to go out and put the every 100-foot ones in and not restripe. So this way we get control of the signage, and then we can, at some point in the future, request that they move the lines, and then we could get rid of the no stopping signage.
It's just that there's all of that space available, and if the yellow lines were brought closer together, the people that go to River Park wouldn't be parking in the neighborhoods. They could park up on 246, and it just is a no-brainer, so to speak. But
it is.
I guess it
is dealing with Caltrans, which is not necessarily a no-brainer.
No.
Okay.
Just doesn't seem like a good use of the roadway.
No, I know. You're right. Okay.
I do not have any speaker slips. We have a motion.
I move we adopt Resolution 16-20, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Buellton regarding parking restrictions on Highway 246 from Industrial Way to Riverview Drive. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, Councilmember Connolly.
Aye.
And Vice Mayor Bauman.
Aye.
And Councilmember Elovitz.
Aye.
And Mayor Andrusik.
With stated reservations, aye.
Thank you.
Agenda item 9, ordinance 1603. Ordinance of the City Council, City of Buellton, revising Title 19 of the Buellton Municipal Code relating to Section 19.08.100.E and 19.08.110.E and 19.08.120.H for second reading.
Honorable Mayor, members of the City Council, on August 25th, the City Council on a 4-1 vote introduced and held the first reading of Ordinance 1603. Attached Ordinance 1603 is now ready for adoption by the City Council.
I have no speaker slips for this. Does anyone want to make a motion?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion for ordinance number 16-03. In order to the City Council of the City of Buellton, revising Title 19, Buellton Municipal Code, here you go again, right? Relating to sections 1908-100E 1908 110E, and 1908 120H into effect. Do I have a second?
Yes.
I'll second.
Oh, there we go.
Okay, Councilmember Connolly.
Aye.
Councilmember Elements.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Bauman.
Aye.
And Mayor Andrusik.
Aye. City Manager's Report.
All right. We just this week have received the Commons project in for processing, so we're starting work on looking at that, and we'll go to Planning Commission for their preliminary review beginning of October. Live Oak Lanes is getting ready to resubmit, so we're hoping that comes in shortly and get that moving towards Planning Commission. As I mentioned, the October 13th City Council meeting is going to be canceled due to absence of council members and staff on that particular meeting. And the Finance Director recruitment is out in Western cities as well as the website and other places. So we're looking for applications coming in for that particular process.
Mark, what's the day of the City Council meeting canceled again?
13th.
13th of
October.
Did you have any comment? I had a question for a timeline on the construction for the, specifically the sidewalk request is when, how's the sidewalk project? And I think Rose had talked about they were going to start Caltrans, wasn't it the end of this year, or was it the middle of 17?
No, it's the end of this year. They still plan to
That's what I was
start.
thinking. So we're getting kind of close to the end of the year. So
Yes, they have received bids already for the project, and they were within the cost estimate. So they will be scheduling award of contract shortly.
And then we will be able to tell the community, because that's going to be a pretty big undertaking.
Yes, and then we'll see what the schedule will entail.
Right, and then we'll post the schedule on the website and make sure everybody's notified.
But there's no, and is that the section where we're going to deal with the paving of the sidewalk for the...
Yes. Between Avenue.
For the, what do we call vehicle? We call electric carts to traverse. Okay, and that, I thought there was one other thing, but with that, we will stand adjourned to Thursday, September 22nd at 6 p.m. Thank you. Thank you.